with Donald Trump getting inaugurated on Monday, of course, he ran on mass deportation, and it's definitely a big talking point. CNN just did a video, and I kind of wanted to review it. Um, there's some good arguments here, but I kind of wanted to break it down and just kind of reveal a lot of what they're missing um, and what they're not really disclosing. So let's take a look.
This is what Trump ran on. He ran on scared politics. I think it's important to center this conversation to talk about immigration some, and that the last full month of the Biden administration here in December was the lowest crossing at the border since 2020 when Donald Trump was president. Do I agree that if there's bad people here that have committed major crimes, they should be kicked out of this country? Absolutely. But 68% of all the Latinos in America know somebody that's undocumented. And for all you folks at home, that's the folks who's picking your salad and milking your cows. On CNN tonight, in South Dakota, our farmer came on this show and talked about how he had voted for Donald Trump and didn't really think Donald Trump was going to deport the men and women who are milking his cows. Milk's finna go up. Buckle up.
Well, I want to, you made a
So one of the issues that he's really not tackling is wage suppression. As long as somebody is undocumented in this country, um, they will be willing to more likely accept lower wages, more work hours, less benefits. We're talking about 401k, Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. A lot of this stuff they will not have access to. Um, so, with that being said, the real issue is when an American citizen is competing for a job that's occupied by an undocumented immigrant or even an H-1B immigrant, there is kind of like this indentured servitude. It's not as bad as the H-1B in the sense of indentured servitude for the company, but you live in this limbo. You're literally looking around over your shoulder every single day. You don't know if, today's going to be the day that they come and deport you, if today is the day that, you get pulled over or somebody just tells on you or whatever. And so I do understand what he's saying that, a lot of farmers are very concerned. Um, and obviously, there's a lot of people in the construction field, as I still work in the construction field every now and then, usually on the weekends. Um, it is a big need for that, but the reality is that this is wage suppression. So I'm going to continue to let them to go on and talk about this, but I'm going to give a little bit more detail as to what the underlying problem is.
point here about criminals because I think they've been pretty clear for logistical reasons that they are going to start with let's figuratively speaking, the lowest hanging fruit, the easiest thing for them to accomplish. Are you, Keith, concerned about a plan that involves rounding up people who are already adjudicated as criminals? Maybe they have deportation orders, maybe they have final orders of deportation, and saying, we're finally going to get you and deport you as a court has adjudicated?
Well, the devil's in the detail, and I don't really know where the details are. It seems like there's a lot of puff right now and a lot of scare tactics. They want people to be afraid about this. I just don't understand how they have the infrastructure to be able to pull this off on Tuesday. I mean, Tom Homan himself was saying we need 100,000 detention beds in order to be able to do this. And we have like 20,000 or 40,000 or something like that. You're talking about doubling the number of detention beds in order to be able to keep these people in some sort of space before you can deport them. How are they going to possibly do this? So I think a lot of what is going on right now is they want people to be scared so that Trump can come in and pretend like he's doing something. We're going to have a lot of executive orders signed in the next few days, and we're going to think there's something happening, but I don't really think he's going to be able to do as much as he wants to do. But it will be dangerous, but not as quickly as he wants it to be.
I think, though, that what's important to remember is that a lot of the policies that were put in place by the Biden administration are going to be taken away so that hopefully we go back to the Trump way it was, where the stay in Mexico policy. I mean, we had a week and a half ago in Boston, we had a situation where an illegal was in a housing unit with over $1 million worth of fentanyl, an AK-47 and weapons. And these are the type of people that they want to get rid of.
We have
These are the
American
people, I
citizens in
mean,
Las
there are going to be
Vegas
plenty of
and New
people,
Orleans who are killing
plenty of
people as well.
criminals.
I mean, we have American citizens in the United States who are committing acts of terrorism, who are committing murders and crimes. In fact, American citizens, natural-born American citizens, are more likely
Yeah.
to commit those crimes than people who come here as immigrants.
Then
So
they have to
it's
face,
easy to
they have to face a court as well.
It's easy to pick out a case and cherry pick this and say this is the problem that we're all facing because this one person did this one horrible thing, and we can all agree that that's a horrible thing. But that's not how you make policy. You don't make policy because of anecdotal evidence. You make policy based on facts and statistics and data.
Yeah, and the fact remains that the overwhelming number of immigrants here are law-abiding people who are paying taxes, who are following the law. And this sort of notion of like, we must remove all of them as rapidly as possible, and that's the problem with America, that's a really dangerous way to look at it.
Well, they're not going to be able to remove all of them.
That's right.
Like, almost everybody acknowledges that. And so are we going to see a bunch of activity on Tuesday, and then it's going to taper off when people turn to other issues that come up? Because to get to even 1 million is going to take quite a long time. It could take the entire year, let alone 11 million. That's probably not going to happen.
You'll see activity. I don't know about a lot of activity, but for anyone who thinks that Donald Trump is bluster and bluff on this issue, he ran on it. He didn't run on scare tactics. He ran on what was either the top issue or the second top issue among the American people for the entirety of the campaign. And so you're going to see him deliver on his promise. It will be a promise made, promise kept to start moving forward on that. But I will say, I think it is a fair criticism that expectations have not been appropriately set. I think that Donald Trump, Tom Homan, the entire team needs to do a better job explaining precisely what we will see and when, because there are some folks on my side of the aisle, Republicans, who are going to expect everything to get fixed in 6 months, and there are others who will expect absolutely nothing will happen. Government is government. It's going to be messy. It's not going to be easy, and they need to be honest about that.
What are we in for?
So to kind of go back to what the lady in red was saying, I don't think she's wrong. Um, and I know that the other guy kind of countered what she was saying, but ultimately the real issue is the prohibition on drugs. That's number one. Big Pharma literally caused the opioid crisis. You know, the Satter family, Purdue, they literally had a pay to play program with doctors. Doctors were out here writing opioid prescriptions like, like candy. And then so you literally had an entire generation or two getting addicted to, Lortabs, Oxys, Roxys. And then whenever those prescriptions ran out or whenever those those orders couldn't be filled, then of course you turn to street drugs. So, we can't forget that one of what was going on in Afghanistan was the American soldiers were literally protecting poppy fields. We can't ignore the fact that during the 1960s and 1970s with Frank Lucas, there was Operation Phoenix, which was the intelligence um, it was an intelligence operation that literally allowed, you know, heroin to be smuggled in from Laos into the coffins of dead soldiers. We can't forget the fact that during the Reagan administration, that literally the CIA was working with other, were working with the Contras in exchange for guns for their civil war in Nicaragua, and also to be able to raise money for Iran because Congress had passed the Bolin Act to stop Reagan. They were allowing tons and tons and tons of cocaine to enter in, you know, Hollywood, black community, South Central LA. We can go into like a whole topic on that. There's a lot that kind of goes on with that. And then even when you look at what Special Agent DEA Special Agent Hector Belleris, he was he was sent on a mission to find the killers of DEA agent Kiki Camarena in Mexico. And what he ended up stumbling upon was that intelligence were working with different cartels. Mainly, they were trying to develop a power vacuum and pretty much put all their reinforcements behind 1 to 2 cartels within Mexico and within Central America. We'll come to find out that while he was in the room, intelligence and uh, El Chapo Guzman was pretty much there when Kiki Camarena was beat to death and killed and murdered. Um, Obviously, today, a lot of the drug trade is done to raise black money, dark money for, black operations. So we have to understand that, we sit here and look at this fentanyl problem, we sit here and look at this drug problem in this country, and a lot of that has to do with how the prohibition on drugs, the war on drugs is enacted. We're not necessarily offering programs so people can be rehabilitated, for one. We're also, destroying wages, we're destroying lives. So therefore, people don't feel empowered to actually work. Um, and even if they do work, they're not giving it their all because they kind of feel this doom and gloom about how American society, the American dream, all this is kind of running farther from them. Um, and then another thing that we have to talk about is how we interfere in different elections, we interfere in different countries in Latin America. So until we actually clear that up, we are literally going to continue to have this problem. And I think one of the things that the liberals get wrong is, you know, it's inhumane for people to want to migrate thousands of miles, go through jungle, go through. When you really look at what kind of happens for people to migrate, it's literally, life and death just to get to America. Um, and then when they get here, there is no pathway to citizenship. Um, a lot of asylum claims do get denied. So then they come to this country. If they haven't, if they don't have the education, if they don't have the skill set, if they don't have, just basic, food, shelter, clothing, transportation, then it gets into a problem where they end up being homeless here, and then they also get exploited by, jobs that want to use them for cheap labor. You look at Tyson Foods. I think it was roughly like 12,000 Americans were fired just to be replaced by immigrants. And, you know it is a oligarch. It's a it's the oligarch that really want cheap labor. Not only do they want foreign cheap labor, as in like they want to be able to build plants and manufacturing and other production in other countries, but they also want to be able to do it here. That's why you have the prison labor. That's why you have, open borders. So you have to factor that in. I think that's where liberals get it wrong. And then you support the Democratic Party. Not all liberals and lefties support the Democratic Party, but then you support a Democratic Party that literally has done nothing more than provide a DACA and DAPA, limbo, where there is no pathway to citizenship yet for DACA recipients. And then what the right gets wrong is, yes, they run on, you know, hardlining, build the wall, strong borders, which I completely agree with. But until we literally stop meddling in other countries like Venezuela, we were caught, sent of mercenaries down there to kill Maduro. We used OPEC to destroy the oil regime. which was literally Venezuela sitting on trillions of dollars of oil. And, you know, Barack Obama went to OPEC to literally undercut that pricing. That way, it caused, just economic chaos in Venezuela. You look at what we've done in El Salvador, what we've done in Nicaragua, what we've done in Mexico, especially supporting cartels and supporting gangs. We look at how we supported, the Colombian drug cartels and stuff like that. We're creating this havoc, and then we sit here, and once the ball starts rolling, then 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 45 years later, we're just like, why are all these people trying to come here? So what I'm really trying to say is, we have to first off stop meddling in other people's countries. We do have to do some kind of war on drug reform. This is not working. I'm not going to sit here and say that we should legalize all drugs, but we should definitely decriminalize drugs. If you're literally just a drug addict and you're not breaking the law, you're not stealing from somebody, you're not robbing from somebody, you're not committing fraud and all this other stuff, then you shouldn't be incarcerated and continue to be even more oppressed by a system. We definitely have to refocus this money into providing rehabilitation, recidivism back into communities, um, which is ultimately important. And then two, we have to figure out if we're just going to deport 20 million people, or if we're going to, provide a pathway to citizenship to DACA recipients. I'm not a hardliner on that. I do think that I grew up with some amazing people, went to high school with them. They are from, Honduras, Mexico and stuff like that. They do pour into this economy, they do great things, but we can't just continue to have those DACA recipients just in legal limbo. They have to have some kind of pathway to citizenship. That way, they're not. Um, how can I put it? That way, they're not suppressing American wages. So, because and then two, there does have to be some kind of deportation, for the simple fact, you know, we we have 800 people. Now, this is just a quote. I think it's a lot more than that, but we have 800,000 people that are claimed to be homeless. I think that number is just ridiculously low. Of course, homelessness rose 18%. So that means that we don't have enough good paying jobs to match the potential workforce that we need. So I'm definitely America first. So therefore, Americans should have an opportunity to have a good paying job, livable wages, and benefits before we just start handing out these jobs to people who are not American citizens. Now, of course, I'm kind of, like I said, I'm kind of torn in between DACA. You can obviously disagree with me on DACA, but I do think that those who are DACA recipients, they're pretty much American citizens. A lot of them have been here 20, 30 years. Um, they have assimilated. They speak English. A lot of them do obey our laws. And so we have to be, understanding to that. They were brought here by their parents, even though that was an illegal act. But yeah, I mean, that's the totality of what needs to be talked about.
For in terms of the legal environment. I mean, I remember like almost like it was yesterday, that first week of the first Trump administration, when people were at airports, there was mass confusion both inside and outside of the United States. There were court cases being adjudicated in the middle of the night, all kinds of things like that. It was actual pure
I
chaos.
remember that.
But that's the game that the media plays. Barack Obama was literally named the deporter in chief, and he literally, when you look at the graphs, he deported more people than Bush, he deported more people than Trump did, and of course, Biden was just a shit show. For those 8 years that Obama was in office, nobody talked about children being separated. Nobody showed videos of people crying in these detention facilities. Like, all this stuff was already in place before Trump got there. And the moment that Trump gets there, all this is exposed. So I'm not sitting here saying Trump didn't go about it diplomatically in more of a statesman like way than Barack Obama, but I have to call a spade a spade. A lot of this stuff is going on under Barack Obama, and literally once Trump was in office, then it's just like, yeah, we definitely have to expose all this.
That was going back to the Muslim ban and a lot of the stuff that was putting in. Let me live this in real life. Both of my business partners are immigrants. They've both been in this country over 20 years. One of them under DACA, the temporary service for kids who have come, and the other under TPS from El Salvador. Both went to their entire school in America. Both graduated with honors. Both of them now are business partners with me and make more money than a U.S. congressman and don't know the certainty of what their lives will be. Have they broke the law? No. But if they stay past March when one of their TPS expires, then they have, quote unquote, broke the law, to your points about devils in the details. So real people are living this, and I have a very, very good life. And folks around me have a good life. Think about the people who are just trying to make it every day and the uncertainty in their life.
So
And I do agree with a lot of Chuck Rocha. Of course, this is not allowed. With when you're not talking about CNN and Fox News and MSNBC and stuff, you only get a couple minutes to talk. It's not long form conversations, but Chuck is definitely a populist. I might not necessarily agree with on a lot of his policies, and a lot of his stances, but I do support left wing and right wing populism as long as it's truly supporting the American people, putting America first, and we're talking about wages, healthcare, and we're just talking about full on, whether you're talking about populists like Teddy Roosevelt, if you're talking about populists like Franklin D. Roosevelt. So
I'm sorry. If this had been an issue that both sides in Congress had been actually trying to fix for years, I could understand this. But this has been a problem that especially Republicans have lifted up and not wanted a solution so they could continue running on it. And this is like the old.
but but what I'm getting at is the Democrats did it too. I mean, Joe Biden, he could have easily, within the first 100 days, worked with some Republicans. There is a lot of Republican. I'm not gonna say there's a lot, but he could have easily found 10 to 15 Republicans in the Senate, to get to override the filibuster and literally solidified, you know, DACA recipients, giving them a pathway to citizenship. Um, of course, Trump didn't do anything to really benefit them, which is obviously a shame. I think that some of his stances have changed, but Trump is always a wild card, so I don't like to. I just give it a wait and see approach. I don't really know what he plans on doing. Um, I mean, I've heard good and negative about DACA from him, so not to really excuse him, not excuse his first term because he didn't do anything, but at the same time, we'll see. But I think that both parties, Republicans and the Democrats, definitely use, immigration, mass deportation, border security, and DACA and DAPA as campaign tools just to get elected. So, you do have to be very careful of that.
Ultimate I'm going to seem tough on crime moment. And it is going to be quite frightening for a lot of Americans to watch these sort of raids. This is not the sort of America that a lot of people.
But that's all I got for you on this video. Y'all be good, y'all be safe.
In his
Peace.
clash with the far right over immigration.